Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745, and we're continuing playing Hearts of Iron 4 with the very early version of Third Reich events installed. So we're going to continue that now. This is giving you a preview of what it's going to be like. Now we've got both of these here are research now. Let's do a doctrine here. We got a 50% boost on that one. Let's research the BF-110. Okay, excavations number 1, level number 1 is done. That will get us some more 10% greater efficiency for resources. Well, let's do the radios. Protection equipment. Keep that progress moving along. Treaty with the USSR completed. And again, the standard event. Picture's not great, but it's alright. Now, we've gotten here. Now we can do this one. It's after the 4-year plan is actually started. And we have the, it's after 1937, the start of 37, so we will do that. Keep that moving along. Send over a few more troops to fill out the defense of East Prussia. Okay. Now, I think we're going to go over to this. Still give a benefit to industrial research as this one does, but only 5%. But you're also getting... Well, we're not doing synthetic resources just yet. Siemens would be good. Well, we'll be doing that soon. Remember, we're still primarily an infantry division army, not a armored division, though. We're building more. We've got 4 divisions so far of armor. Brigade is trained up. Okay, we're getting a diplomatic report about the National Settlement Agreement. The Czech government was very much working to try to settle things with the you know, the Sudeten German, Sudeten Deutsch. Czechoslovakia, unlike the way I was brought up and taught during the Cold War era, was very much an artificial country. Don't know quite the ethnic makeup of this border region here with Hungary, whether it's mostly Hungarian or mostly Slovaks or some other ethnic group people, because obviously we've seen earlier there were a fair number of Germans living out here, though to the best of my knowledge not in any one, you know, concentrated area to say, oh, this province or whatever should be German ethnically. And so nowadays obviously we have it's divided between the Czechs and the Slovaks. They expelled all the Germans from the Sudeten region at the end of World War II, so that future German governments couldn't have the excuse that there were Germans or German-speaking people living there. They just got rid of them all. So it's a country that's sort of made up. Now this border along more or less the mountain ridge is a fairly definable border, and this is go back, if you look at the conflict between Frederick the Great and Maria Theresa's and a later Austrian Empire here, was definitely a noted particular region, but it wasn't as ethnically defined as it is nowadays, because it was, multiple ethnicities were interacting amongst themselves. So Czechoslovakia was trying to work this out. Basically doomed failure, but they're trying. We're getting a report of that. And you got to realize the Germans that are living in Czechoslovakia in whatever region at this time, most of them, a lot of them at least, if not most, had grown up in a German-speaking country as the elites, as the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was only from, 1919, 1920 or whatever, when Czechoslovakia was formed, and that's approximately 16, 17 years before this time period. So, yeah, a 17-year-old and younger would have been more or less born in Czechoslovakia, but his parents, grandparents, would have been born in a German, politically, culturally German-dominant country, and now they're in a different ethnic country. So I can understand why they didn't want to be Czech. And they're also at this time looking in 36, 37 at this sort of economic miracle and this apparently, I don't know if paradise is overstating it, but obviously this apparent, again I'm saying it's apparent, it's not necessarily real. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, there's a lot of ugliness under the surface, but in the propaganda elements, this sort of wonderland of Germany that's happening, that they all wanted to join. I don't know, and if you look at the voting totals, I think they're more or less accurate. They were getting 80-90% support among the Sudeten Germans for the SDP. That I don't think necessarily translates in that there were 80-90% of them that were National Socialists or Nazis. They just wanted to be united with the main principle of the SDP, which was united with Germany. Whether they would have been primarily Nazis once they got there, I don't know. But they definitely wanted irredentism, wanting to join with Germany. So, any real measures that Czechoslovakia is trying to take may be in good faith, but it's hopeless and doomed. Okay, well, with burning concern, that's what that is. Benender Sorge, sorry, I'm butchering it. Pope Pius XI basically says, you Nazis are being bad people, so we lose 6%, is it? Yeah. National unity there. And we continue the 4-year plan. Now, we do with that event, we will get the research bonus here, but it doesn't give us the automatic factories just yet. But now we're going to get back over here, put that to move towards. There will be other events that will have some costs, but we're also getting a lot of benefits from the 4-year plan here. And if you guys, you know, have ideas, suggestions on how best to interpret some of these things, I would gladly hear them. Oh, what? No, it's the wrong one here. Okay, this one we want over here. They're just my interpretations of history and of the various historical developments interpreted into the game format, and I know I'm wrong about things because they're guesses. Now they're, I think, fairly educated guesses, but they're guesses on just what does it mean historically, the translation, how does it work. Okay, well, let's my loss. They were also one of the makers of float planes, or seaplanes, or whatever you want to call them. And see, now this is unlike a diplomatic report, these are discrimination reports. I think a fair amount of them were taking sort of a real incident and blowing it out of, like we're seeing in Black Lives Matter. Some of you may originally have been mistaken about Black Lives Matter in that, oh, it's about Black Lives Mattering too, which is they sort of leave off, but you sort of understand that Black Lives Matter too. But now if you look at their manifesto that they put out, it's just a bunch of communist radical nonsense that most of it has nothing to do with Black Lives Mattering. It's just a political movement that they're taking a real incident, whether it's a justified or an unjustified. I'm not commenting about any specific police shooting of a person. I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter protest movement and riot movement, as we're seeing in Milwaukee, as the time of recording of this. Movement taking real incidents, and I think there were some real incidents that were exaggerated, either post the incident, meaning the story got more outlandish, or we're looking at a case in which during the incidents themselves, a lot of the there were, your average German person, whether he was a farmer or a middle-class tradesman or whatever it might be, going about their daily lives in the Sudeten region. But there were also a lot of activists and agitators, and basically the equivalent of, at this time, the SA. They moved into the Freikorps movement, in which they were actually armed, guys with rifles and machine guns armed, doing incidents against the Czech police and other things. Like we're seeing sniping of American police nowadays. But they were doing more and more of that. So that they were agitators that would sort of make, what might be a real sort of incident, during the incident a lot worse. Make sure that blows were exchanged. Make sure that it was. These are being reported in the papers, and there were German publications in the Sudetenland, and were being reported through various news services around the world, various discrimination reports, and I do believe that they are being agitated as well. So that did cost us a little bit of political points, but not too much. Okay, we want to continue our production of submarines. I still need to remove this from the news event there. Still haven't done that. No, I talked about this before. Salazar writes a anti-Nazi book, even though he was a semi-fascist, definitely a nationalist. Sort of right on that, in my opinion, right on that line between sort of fascists and nationalists. I know a lot of leftists, there's a few of them, a few of you even watch this channel, but often categorize anything of the right, and I'm talking of the sort of nationalist, fascist, Nazi, as all being one and the same. They weren't. They aren't. They're degrees of difference. Okay, this is how the event is really going to be played out. Talk about the Hindenburg Disaster, sort of a colorized photo of that. And you get to choose what you want to explain it as. Either as sabotage, it must be sabotage, or which would mean that, hey, yeah, air travel is dangerous, but this wouldn't happen unless somebody sabotaged the airship. Or it could just be that the static spark, that's sort of, I think, at the time it was sort of judged to be the actual cause of the incident, as well as most likely thought cause, but there are several other causes. You have your choice between calling it sabotage and getting a little more popularity, but disrupting national unity a little more, or going with they were just stupid to fly hydrogen bombs around with people in them. Let's see, we're going to go with it must be sabotaged, and then this is supposed, the news event is supposed to pop up, which it did obviously, but not have that other one, so I gotta remove it. Remove the other trigger. Okay, Henry Ford, this is a picture of the Cologne plant, though they also, I believe, had a smaller plant somewhere in the Berlin area. Basically, Opel was also a part of a subcontractor of Ford at the time, or local thing, but there was also Ford, not just Opel, but Ford with here in Germany. That's a badge of them. So we can allow an increase of foreign investment in the Reich, which will disrupt our national unity, foreigners and all that kind of thing. But we'll get a free civilian factory out of that, basically foreign investment coming into the Reich, or we'll increase national unity and not get it. We're going to take the factory. I'd rather have the factory. Okay, 37, so we're going to continue with the industrial development here. Okay, air innovations, good. That is moving us towards rocketry. And we now have 110 researched. We got all those going now for 37, that done. Those are all done. Well, since we have a 50% bonus, we'll take that. Maintenance company, that'll help our motorized forces. Once we add that company to the divisions. Okay, Fallgrün, Case Green, I believe that is. was the German plan, as you can see here, of the invasion of Czechoslovakia. This is approximately now in June 37 is when they developed the plan for the invasion of Czechoslovakia here. We can decide to do it or not do it. It costs us 10 political power, but it basically, this is not launching the invasion. This is developing the plan and training for the plan. Basically, it's sort of doing what I've done by sticking all these units around the border and practicing for an invasion. So we're going to do that, and which it will give us, well, we still have a 50% bonus, but we will also get a 30% bonus eventually on a doctrine, ground force doctrine. Construction level 2, good. And then we go here. And we have let's produce some light cruisers. Okay, now, Reich Work, Hermann Göring. Göring didn't own this, though he, to the best of my knowledge, got a rake-off, kickbacks, or whatever you want to call it, from several of the elements of Reich Work, Hermann Göring. This was set up under part of the 4-year plan. I know I've talked about this before in various videos, so just a little bit about it. Basically, it was a government-owned industrial concern. It very much worked to increase various mining and resource development areas, including refining as well as mining, and also it did own some manufacturing type, end product manufacturing plants. So I've used this to move the civilian factories that you would normally get off of the second industrial plan, plus you get a little bit more resources that they're increasing resource production. And Amelia Earhart disappears into the ocean. So now we have even more factories, and those are completed, so we're going to create some armaments factories, yay. They're quicker to build than civilian factories. Leadership purges in the Soviet Union. Yes, kill off everybody who can think. They might disagree with you. Anybody? And the Marco Polo Bridge incident. No, do we have enough to... no, we can't get to there yet. Well, we're gonna hold off on doing that, just because we may get the Marco Polo incident. Okay, Graf Zeppelin 2 is currently under production. We've obviously had a bad incident with the Hindenburg and hydrogen. The only substantially large production source for helium at this time is in the United States. We realize we are not going to get as a commercial service any more passengers on a hydrogen Zeppelin. 2 British ones had been under production I think one of them was canceled. The other one crashed, I believe, in France, though they were very, very heavy. They did not have the expertise that Germany did at building. A couple of the ones that went to the United States after the World War I as sort of war reparations, they worked very well until, and I think they were refilled with helium, because the Americans had plenty of it. Basically slowly died different times through basically bad weather accidents. So hydrogen, which Germany has access to a lot of that, and is actually better lifting gas. But they, even before the Hindenburg incident, they had planned and set up the Graf Zeppelin II here as a helium-based airship, in that it was built size big enough to be filled with helium and have proper lifting for the amount of cargo, which, you know, basically luggage, airmail, and the requisite amount of passengers and passenger room to do that, and not sort of work on the helium standard. I mean, work under the hydrogen standard. It could be filled with helium and float plenty well. So we're going to do it because some other event will happen. You have the chance of not continuing it. Basically, they send Dr. Hugo Echner, the head of the Zeppelin program here. He meets with Franklin Delano Roosevelt to try to get the U.S. at the time, and I believe it still is today, it's illegal to export helium, because this time, I don't know if it's ever been removed from the books, but I know definitely it was at this time. It was against the law, and it was because of World War I and the Zeppelin bombing, particularly of London, but Zeppelin bombing, that the U.S. passed a law that you couldn't export helium out to, at least, I don't know whether it was just certain nations, but I think generally you couldn't export it. Well, not sell it. And basically, I have it automatically set up as the historical outcome. When I come to Uncle Sam's events, I will try to integrate it so that you, as the U.S. player, could decide to sell, if you wanted to, helium to Germany. But basically the U.S. says no. So we're going to continue building it, but it's going to be a hydrogen ship, not a helium ship. Come on, something in China. I want another incident there. Raise up threat levels. Okay, Werner von Braun have given us rocketry. Let's increase research slots. Maintenance company, yay. Let's do signals company. Well, let's see what else we can improve here. And we have some free factories. We are currently deficit in trucks and tanks, so let's build some more tanks. Got a lot of those in production right now. The factories. I think we're going to take this opportunity to end this episode. Thanks so much for liking the videos. Thanks for watching, of course. And again, I'm pushing. You can go wherever and on your Steam account or other places. Please help promote up the channel. I really appreciate that so much. It helps a lot. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.